Good morning and afternoon to everyone from across the country. Thanks so much for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Krista Costas Bradstreet. I'm the Director of Policy and Partnerships for the Canadian Parks and Recreation Association, or CPRA. We're thrilled to welcome you today to our webinar, Lessons from Women 55 Plus on Ageism and the Importance of Remaining Engaged in Physical Activity, Recreation, and Sport. Before we begin, as always, I'd like to briefly introduce you to CPRA. The Canadian Parks and Recreation Association is a national organization dedicated to realizing the full potential of parks and recreation as a major contributor to community health and vibrancy. Over its 60-year history, CPRA has been the national voice for parks and recreation, advancing the collective interests of our members. CPRA is a national network dedicated to the well-being of people, communities, and the natural and built environments. And CPRA provides services for our members and partners that cultivate dialogue, learning, and innovation. CPRA's strength comes from the experience, expertise, and network of the staff and board members from our membership, which is the 13 provincial and territorial associations. We also work with volunteers, government partners, and a number of allied sectors such as physical activity, sport, education, public health, and others that help us make progress on our goals, and we strive to help them meet theirs. We have a virtual office with 6 staff, and as the national office of CPRA is located in Ottawa, I pay respect to the Algonquin people who are the traditional guardians of this land. I acknowledge their longstanding relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. I pay respect to all Indigenous people in this region from all nations across Canada who call Ottawa home. Just wanted to let you know that this summer we introduced The Bench. This is CPRA's new online community, a place for the sector to meet, work, and grow together. The Bench features COVID-19 resources, as well as a number of other resources, events that are going to be taking place, discussion groups. There's a portal dedicated to the framework for recreation in Canada, as well as one for Parks for All, and a number of other professional development opportunities. Newly released is a jobs board that you might be interested in, and coming very soon is the new benefits hub. So we encourage you to sign up to The Bench, share the link with your colleagues, and post and visit as much as possible, because our online community will grow as you actively participate. So we really invite you to share that experience. And I've just got a quick 1-minute video to show you here. Just quickly to let you know about our Gender Equity and Recreational Sport initiative. In November 2019, CPRA was awarded a contract from the Government of Canada to increase the participation and retention of women and girls in recreational sport in Canada. There are 4 priority populations that you can see on this slide. And we have to date had webinars on girls aged 9 to 15 and girls and women with intersecting identities. If you missed them, they are on the CPRA website, and we invite you to take a look and to share those with colleagues as well. For our part, CPRA is designing and delivering a resource addressing facility use and design. We're offering workshops, webinars, high-five training, and a community grants program. In terms of the Community Grant Initiative, CPRA supported 52 projects across Canada in 2020 aimed at increasing participation and retention of women and girls in recreational sport. And this year, CPRA is supporting 70 additional projects across Canada. Our next call for funding will be announced in the summer of 2021, and you can see here more about the initiative on our website in the 2 URLs shared there. The project supports the Government of Canada, Sport Canada specifically's funding requirement or funding commitment, to achieve gender equity in sport at every level by 2035. So before I introduce our speakers today, I will just point out that this webinar was pre-recorded, but our question and answer segment will be live. So as you're watching the webinar, please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A box. We'll be monitoring them throughout the presentation, and we'll have an opportunity to hear answers to your questions live at the end of all of the presentations. So now I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker. I've known Peggy Edwards for many years, and I can tell you this is a very modest introduction. Peggy Edwards is a retired health promotion consultant. She has worked in the area of physical activity, gender equality, and healthy aging at the national and international level. Peggy is a founding member of the organization now known as Canadian Women in Sport, formerly CAUSE, and the Grandmothers Advocacy Network. She has also worked with Health Canada, the World Health Organization, the Canadian Public Health Association, Participaction, the YWCA, and CPRA. She was the lead writer for the Framework for Recreation in Canada. She is a passionate advocate for upholding the rights of older women. Peggy lives in an age-friendly neighborhood in Ottawa where she walks her dog Molly 4 times a day. So thrilled to have you here today, Peggy. I will turn it over to you.
I'd like to thank all of you for attending today and to thank CPRA for hosting this important webinar as part of our focus on gender equality and International Women's Week. It's a pleasure and an honor to be part of this panel of positive and knowledgeable advocates for physical activity for women and diverse genders age 55 plus. Since I'm the first speaker, I'd like to look at the big picture by setting the context and looking at some of the key constraining and facilitating factors for women to participating in recreation and physical activity in later life. And since I am 73 years old, I'd like to tell you about a recent personal experience which has affected my own participation in physical activity. So, beginning with setting the context. First of all, words matter. You'll hear the other speakers talking about their views on being called a senior or elderly or getting on in age. I go a bit berserk when sales clerks call me dear or a waiter asks, "How are we doing today?" This kind of ageist talk is condescending and reinforces negative stereotypes about older persons. When I talk or write about older people or people in later life, I prefer to use the terms older adults or older persons, older people. To avoid confusion and show respect, in Canada, the term elder with a capital should be reserved for cultural and spiritual leaders in Indigenous communities. The word elder, not capitalized, is sometimes used to describe Indigenous people age 65 and over. The terms elder and elderly should not be used to describe older people in mainstream culture. In addition, older people outside of Indigenous communities dislike the term elderly because it comes from the medical model and is widely associated with frailty and dependence. Statistics Canada defines seniors as age 65 and over. This is the official term used by governments to signify people who qualify for the old age pension. It's widely used in research policies and programs. In order to study trends and how demographics link to health, some researchers look at data related to older adulthood, again, across 3 stages. First, early older adulthood, that's age 50 to 64, mid older adulthood, that's age 65 to 79, and late older adulthood, age 80 plus. However, we all know that the reality of growing older is seldom based on chronological age. People age in different ways and at different times throughout the life course. While some 70-year-olds may enjoy physical and mental functioning similar to people in their 40s, others may be frail or require significant support to meet their basic needs. Older people are not one large homogeneous group. Life is very different at age 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100, and is affected by gender, health and ability status, culture, racial, ethnic, and Indigenous identity, education, earlier life experiences, living conditions, lifestyle, and social support. So it's important to view aging and older as a culmination of life experiences and transitions, and to consider how aging people themselves perceive being older in their various communities and cultures. Intersectionality recognizes the ways that gender, race, class, sexuality, living arrangements, location, age, and ability are all intertwined and can increase inequities. For example, an older woman who is poor, isolated, and does not speak English or French is far more likely to lack access to recreation and the other determinants of health. Understanding the demographics of aging in Canada is critical to how we plan and train for recreation and physical activity. This first slide is a population pyramid showing differences from the year 2000 to 2020. Females are on the right and males are on the left, and age is shown in the middle. So what do we see? First, that the pyramid is changing shape as more Canadians live longer and fertility rates continue to drop. The huge baby boom generation, born between 1945 and 1964, continues to age and is still the largest part of our population. We can also see here that for the first time, the number of older adults aged 65 years and older now outnumbers children under the age of 15 years. And we can also see that women outnumber men, particularly in the oldest age groups. What's not shown here are the projections for the future, nor the growing diversity of the Canadian population. And these factors have important implications for the fields of physical activity, recreation, and sport. First, that the 80+ demographic, that little part at the top of the pyramid, is the fastest growing population group. Secondly, that the aging population is increasingly culturally diverse. For the past 20 years, Canada's immigration patterns have changed from largely drawing on the UK and Europe. And we now have significant numbers of older adults from diverse races and cultures coming from Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and South America. And thirdly, that there are significant inequities that need to be addressed. For example, women from Indigenous communities are likely to develop disabling conditions and to die younger than older women in mainstream communities. This slide shows selected healthy aging indicators for women aged 45 years and older. My intent in including this slide is not to suggest that older women have so many health problems that they cannot participate in recreation, sport, physical activity. On the contrary, most women aged 45 and older are keen to participate. And they say there are three key reasons for that. First, to address and delay physical and mental health problems. Secondly, to keep our brains healthy. And thirdly, to socialize and have fun with others. Knowing about these key healthy aging indicators may help leaders in recreation and physical activity build on your participants' motivations and intentions, as well as understanding when participation may require some adopting because of health conditions. Running down the list here of some of the health indicators, I'll just say a few things. First of all, cataracts is there because this is part of my story. You'll hear more about this later. Women with vision problems are 3 times more likely to fall when walking. Secondly, chronic conditions are a part of life after age 45. Things such as arthritis, high blood pressure, and diabetes are common for the majority of women over age 45. And after age 65, over 70% have 2 or more of these conditions. Falls. 1 in 4 women age 65 and over will have a fall, causing a reportable injury. There are fewer statistics for younger women. However, I suspect they too have many falls, but most go unreported because they're able to recover without going to a physician or hospital. Of interest to me in particular, 8% of falls occur while engaging in sport and physical activity, 45% while walking, and 60% on snow and ice. Fear of falling becomes a major deterrent for physical activity. It becomes a vicious cycle. You fall, then you're afraid to fall, then you don't go out as much, then your strength declines, and therefore you're more vulnerable to falling. You'll see arthritis and osteoporosis here. They're far more common in women than in men and are the leading causes of pain and disability in older women. That doesn't mean, again, that you have to give up physical activity. One of my friends, Valerie, has severe arthritis and she loves to dance. So she has some medication, but she's joined a tap dancing club for older women where they're still doing tap dancing and they're still performing. But some of the moves have been adjusted so that it's a little easier for her arthritic feet. Thyroid conditions are there because these may appear during and after menopause and can cause weakness. Look at dementia, that in keeping your brain healthy is one of the key reasons women want to exercise. And there is evidence that appropriate physical activity can delay the onset of some dementias and delay increasing intensity in the early stages. Sleep, if you haven't looked at them yet, you should definitely look at the new 24-hour movement guidelines, which integrate recommendations for physical activity, sedentary behavior, and sleep. They stress the importance of getting 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep on a regular basis with consistent bed and wake up times. How many of you are doing that? Lastly, there are some stats here on social participation. Again, this being a major motivation for women to participate. While 41.7% looks good for participation in sports and physical activity, this question on the survey only asked if you participated in sport and physical activity with another person at least once a year. So it doesn't give us a very good picture. We can see that girls and women participate less than men at all ages, but particularly in adolescence and their early 20s and after the age of 55. So why is this the case? I'm convinced that in both cases, sexism and ageism are part of the problem. And I'd like to move on to constraining factors for women to participating in recreation and physical activity in later life. There are numerous constraining factors, and some of the other speakers, Shelley and others, will speak eloquently to some of these in a few minutes. I was asked to speak specifically about one key barrier, ageism, and I'd like to use my own experience to highlight one other key barrier, specifically the challenges of winter walking and the dire outcomes of falling for women of all ages, but most often for women in later life. Older women face the double jeopardy of ageism and sexism. I grew up with sexist restrictions and societal values that suggested it's not appropriate for older women to take risks, engage in competitive activities, go off on a canoe trip, or learn new physical skills. Staying fit is not an issue because, unlike older men, whose prestige grows with age, despite their appearance and physical fitness, women are over the hill once they pass reproductive age. While many of the sexist notions around physical activity have, thank goodness, gone away and changed with younger generations, women my age often feel invisible in society. And ironically, their grown-up children whom they encourage to do long-distance cycling and faithfully brought to soccer, tennis, and martial arts are horrified when their older mother considers doing some of these activities at her age. The term ageism, defined as the process of systematic stereotyping and discrimination against people because they are old, was first coined by Robert Butler, a psychologist and gerontologist, in 1969. Ageism can be personal, our individual biases, or institutional, driven by custom, culture, and economic forces. Bias doesn't have to be intentional to be damaging. Unintentional biases also take their toll on older people. Many aging sentiments are subtle, easily overlooked, and even well-intentioned. Addressing an older woman as young lady, for instance, perpetuates the idea that old is bad. Would-be compliments such as, "I don't know how you can still do that," or even, "You are a great model for older women," perpetuates the idea that the norm of aging is decline and reduced functioning. Most ageism is unintentional. reflecting deeply held beliefs about old age that have been cultivated over generations. Most people think their views of aging are reasonable and justified based on their personal experience, when in fact, public messages and images have influenced their thinking. And of course, age bias is shaped by our own fear of death and our inability to see it as a normal part of living. Some aspects of ageism are intentional and downright ugly. For example, the idea that the COVID-19 pandemic will be positive because it will kill off expensive, burdensome older people has been captured in Twitter. Several hashtags have arisen, such as hashtag boomer remover and hashtag granny killer. I believe that the horrors we've seen in long-term care during COVID-19 are the direct result of a broken system that failed to recognize the value and contribution of our oldest citizens and their caregivers, over 70% of whom are women. Despite the calls for change over the past 20 years by health and recreation professionals, the worst effect of ageism is that it can be turned inward. Studies show that adults with positive self-perceptions of aging engage in more health promotion strategies and take better care of themselves than those with negative perceptions of aging. Negative stereotypes perpetuated by the media and experiences in the community affect an individual's self-esteem, self-efficacy, and resilience, all factors related to whether older adults perceive they have control over their health outcomes and their ability to be and stay active. What can recreation and professional people who work in physical activity do to counter ageism? Number one, face up to your biases. We all have some, which are driven often by unrealistic expectations of what it's like to get older. Secondly, focus on the benefits of getting older. In a 2014 Gallup survey based on 80,000 interviews, adults aged 65 and older reported higher levels of thriving in social, community, and physical aspects of their lives than any other age group. Yes, the vast majority of older adults enjoy this stage of life. Thirdly, and we've talked about this, use positive language. Choose words and images that reinforce the benefits of getting and being older. Be realistic in your images and learn more about aging. Ask older women what they want to do in terms of physical activity. The other constraint I wanted to talk about was falls and winter walking. Most Canadians live in winter cities. I live in Ottawa. Winters here have changed. When I was a kid, almost all days were cold and sunny with lots of snow. Now, due to global warming, we have freeze-thaw cycles that lead to treacherous ice on sidewalks, roads, pathways, and parks. Walking is the main daily physical activity practiced by older people. Along with aqua fitness, dance fitness, and playing with my grandchildren, it is my chief source of physical activity, mainly because I have a dog, Molly, who needs to walk 4 times a day. This year, I developed serious cataracts, which left me legally blind in one eye and functioning at about 50% in the other eye. Because of COVID-19, cataract surgery was deemed non-essential, and there is a 2-year waiting list for the operation. Foolishly, I walked Molly one night in an area I knew had lots of ice buildup. I fell. Fortunately, I was wearing a medical alert necklace at the insistence of my friend, who's a nurse practitioner. When I awoke, the ambulance was there. I spent 8 hours in emergency and was told I had endured a concussion. When I got home, I was unable to walk outside, to drive, to read, or go to my aqua fitness class. 4 weeks later, I'm much improved and have had surgery on one eye. I now walk with a teenager up the street or with my grandson. He handles the dog and I use cleats on my boots and walking poles. The other speakers will address facilitators for physical activity. I would like to stress, however, the importance of community and particularly of developing age-friendly communities and neighborhoods. I'm sure that many of you, some of you at least, are involved in age-friendly communities. The beauty of this initiative is that it encourages communities to become safe, comfortable, and friendly to all ages, but particularly to older and younger persons. If you are not an age-friendly community, I urge you to find out more and get involved. In conclusion, is ageism and sexism a factor in discouraging older women from participating in physical activity? Yes. Can we address this and change things as we move forward? Yes. To do this, we need to address ageism and sexism within society and within ourselves. We need to create age-friendly communities, involve older women in program and urban planning. We need to be inclusive in terms of gender, identity, race, and ancestry. We need to understand and address the diversity within the older age group and understand the concept of intersectionality. We need to take a life course approach to leave no one behind. And lastly, perhaps most importantly, we need to have fun and build social support and positive relationships. Thank you.
Peggy, as always, thank you for your great information and insight. Our next presenter is Shelley Callahan. Shelley is the president of Purple Dog Consulting and has been working in the area of physical activity and health promotion and prevention for over 25 years. From 2005 to 2018, Shelley managed the Women 55 to 70 plus program for Canadian women in sport, which included the coordination of national focus groups, engaging and training 55 to 70 plus women as community leaders, and overseeing over 100 community-based projects aimed at engaging women 55 to 70 plus in physical activity and sport. So thrilled that you're here with us today, Shelley. We're looking forward to hearing more about your work. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Krista, for the kind introduction. I'm so pleased to be talking to everybody across the country today about a topic that is definitely near and dear to my heart, women 55 plus. As Krista said, I had the pleasure of working with Canadian women in sport for the last 13 years. I had a chance to work on this project, and it really started from looking at a need. We were finding that women in the younger senior age group were really missed a lot in programming. So we did a bit of research and quite a bit of projects across the country just to learn more about this very interesting group. So all this kind of started back in 2005 when I had the pleasure through a grant from the Public Health Agency of Canada to do cross Canada workshops where we talked to a number of women in this age group, as well as stakeholders, just about some of their barriers and really how they were feeling either included or not included in the physical activity sector. And from that, we were able to develop some amazing pilot projects, some tools and resources. We trained leaders across the country. And I'm so pleased that actually two of those amazing leaders are here presenting with me today. That you'll hear from them later. So really what I want to share with you today is the results of that 13 years that I had a chance to work on the project and the great work that came out of it. You know, one of the things that, we want to start with is really why should we care about this age group? And really there's so many reasons why we should care, but some of the really compelling making the case pieces are the fact that this is a growing demographic. We always hear about the baby boomers and that, there's such a large population and they have taken so many trends across the country from building suburbs to everything else because they're a large population, but we often think that they're older than they are, and really the majority of the babies in the baby boom were born in 1960 and 1961. So that means that they are only 62 and 63 right now, and the oldest boomers are 76. So this is a population that is here. It's a population that is growing for a number of years, and we need to be ready. And it's a huge opportunity for people working in parks and recreation to be able to really focus on how we can target this group. So, what else is unique about them? Really, they're a very diverse group. So, women in this age group could still be working. They could still be retired. They could have, teenage children, or they could have 20 grandchildren. When we talked to women across the country, they told us about all these different lives they were living, really. And so, that one size fits all approach really does not work with this group. They're not always available during the day. We need to think of evenings and weekends. So this is a really important piece to consider when programming for them. And then the last piece is that this is a really critical time in a woman's life. They say that there's two times in a woman's life when she really does think about her personal health. And one is when she's pregnant and she's thinking about, okay, what am I eating? What am I doing? How am I going to be there for my children? This is another critical window. At the 55 age group, women start to see some changes. Could be health changes, could be changes in lifestyle, and they're looking ahead. And the number one thing that women said they were afraid of is not being independent, not being able to care for themselves. And so this is a time when you might have been saving your money for years that you start to think about your health more, and you wonder where your health bank account is at. So this is a time to start banking those health benefits, we call them. So, everything from balance to cardio to all those kind of things are all elements that you're going to draw on as you age. And women start to think about that more. So this is a really critical time. So you have an opportunity as people that are programming for this age group that they're listening. They're really listening at this age group. I want to start by letting you know a little bit about the focus group that we did. So we went across the country, as I mentioned before, and we actually spoke with active women and less active women, and they actually self identified themselves on a scale of 1 to 5. And it was really funny because when we started talking to them, no women is not active. There's no such thing as a not active women, but they put themselves into those categories. So we allowed those discussions to happen, and we also talked to stakeholders. So we had a chance to speak with 250 women and over 100 stakeholders when we went across the country, and these are some of the things that they told us. The barriers to participation came through as kind of three main barriers. So, external barriers are the things that are kind of out of your control. They're external impacting barriers. The impacting barriers are things that could either go one way or the other. They impact us kind of like the determinants of health. And then the internal barriers are those secrets. It's those things that we really don't quite know why they're preventing us, but they're those secrets and internal pieces. And when you do a focus group, the external ones come out really quick, and you'll see when I go through them that they're the usual suspects. The impacting barriers are kind of the next level. And then the internal ones are those secrets. And those all happened at the end of the focus group when we really started to get into the nitty gritty. So, external barriers, these are the typical ones that you hear. You hear about weather, but what was really interesting about this group is they complained as much about summer as they did about winter. They were either really too hot or they were really too cold. So, that was, coming up with solutions for dealing with both seasons was definitely there. Transportation, so access. A lot of women either had partners that had driven them or they had lived in areas that were a little bit more friendly for commuting, and now they had to learn public transit. They needed to do all these things. So, you're often learning new ways of getting around at every age. So there's no smooth transition with this. Infrastructure, the built environment, not having sidewalks, not being able to really get around well was another complaint. And then cost. So women said that it's not that at this age that they don't have money, but they don't know how much money they're going to need. They don't know how long they're going to live. So planning for the future was a really big issue. So having things like discounts, having things like try-its that were free or equipment exchanges were really important because cost was an issue. So the impacting barriers. So these could go either way. They could either be huge supports or they could be really major barriers. So health is an interesting one because whether we were talking to the active women or we were talking to the less active women, health came up all the time. And something like arthritis, which is very, very common in this age group, was either mentioned as a motivator or a barrier. So women that said it was a motivator said, if I don't get up and go to the pool and do my exercises, I can't move. So I know how important that is, or my arthritis is going to be really bad. Other women said to us, well, I have arthritis, so I'm in too much pain. I can't do that. So, this could go either way. So, really showing those testimonials of people that are doing things that are in this age group, regular people, to help motivate them to move forward is really great. Caregiving was another big one, and it could be taking care of grandchildren, and a lot of women talked about taking care of their aging parents. So they're really sandwiched, and there's a level of guilt at this age group as well to take respite services for anything other than going for groceries or getting a health appointment, as opposed to playing golf. So you don't tend to do things for yourself. So caregiving can be a really big challenge if you're not supportive. Having someone to do something with, having a buddy. Women that said that they were really active talked a lot about their buddies. And women that said they weren't active said, I just don't have anyone to do it with. So this is a really, really big piece, and providing those opportunities to socialize and get to know each other so that buddies can be created is really important. Then anything with programming, either things weren't happening at the right time because people were working, or my knees hurt now and things were going too fast and I don't know about adaptations. And then, believe it or not, clicks are still a really big issue in this age group. And we were using the example of, you don't stand there, that's where Jenny stands, or don't stand here. And so one of the ways to get around that is to these women that have been coming to the program and are really your champions, give them a job and make them part of the welcoming committee, because that can really work. And then the last impacting barrier is that wording. So women in this age group have said that they really don't consider themselves seniors or older adults, unless, of course, there's a discount. They would be happy to get the seniors discount, but don't call me a senior or an older adult. So having fun wording and fun programs is really, really important. And I know that our other speakers are going to talk a little bit about that. Then the last one is really those internal barriers. So these are some of the things that once we said, okay, the weather isn't an issue, we're going to pick you up, transportation isn't an issue, okay, we're going to get you some respite services for the caregiving. And still the answer was, I can't do it. These are the type of things that came up. These are the secrets. These are the internal barriers that I think are really important for us to think about. So body image at this age was a really big deal. Getting into the pool. A lot of people are now finding that the pool is better on joints, but they don't want to wear a bathing suit. They feel self conscious. The comment is, I'll go to the gym after I lose 20 pounds. So, providing those opportunities where you can wear your everyday clothes, mirrors. Women really don't like mirrors. And, getting rid of some of those mirrors is another way around it. And even if you have mirrors in a room, you can just put plants all over the place or curtains or something. But women said they didn't like to see themselves. Guilt, women talked about buying memberships, and they've done it all their lives and they've never used them. So they don't want to waste money. They don't want to feel guilty when there's limited money in the family. And it's a conditioning, like you just, women have a lot of guilt often. Confidence. So some of these women we talked to were counselors and CEOs, but they have no experience with physical activity and sport. So they're afraid to ask questions. They don't want to look silly, and they lack that information. So making sure that you provide the information is really important. And then the last piece is the transitions. Women talked about in this age that they really feel like they're disappearing. They don't see themselves in magazines, they don't see themselves on TV. And the funny comment was, if you want to rob a bank, be a 60-year-old woman, because no one will even notice you walking in the door. So, it's really important to celebrate women in this age group in your brochures, in any kind of communications, and doing, any kind of TV spots you might have. Women need to see themselves. So they really did feel that they were disappearing in this age group. The big thing around physical activity for every age group is creating that physical literacy. So physical literacy involves, creating the competence to have the confidence to then have the motivation. And the really important thing is we think of things like fundamental movement skills and creating physical literacy as something that we do with children. And certainly there's a huge developmental opportunity to work with children, but in a lot of cases, women in particular did not have that opportunity. They didn't learn how to throw the ball or kick or some of those, basic skills. But it doesn't mean you can't start there right from, this age group, and it's really important to make sure that you don't do some programming and assume everyone has those skills. You need to make sure that you start developing those skills and providing the opportunity for orientations and skill building from the beginning. Here's a few ideas that came up that kind of build on the physical literacy model. So, creating competence. We've found that any kind of skills training, try-its, orientations are super, super important and they're really well received because women want to try everything, honestly. And if they have a real opportunity to come together and learn about it, it's going to work really well. Women also have said they want a variety of activities. So, one of the comments was when I turned 55, why were my options mall walking and aquafit? Like I used to play basketball. Like, can't we lower the baskets and shorten the courts? Like, what can we do? So, know that women are excited to try a number of things. And so, don't limit yourself, just adapt them. Recruit women to be instructors and coaches. So, one of the things that, in talking to programmers, they say, well, we'd love to have more women 55 to 70 plus as instructors and coaches, but they don't come forward. Well, have they been invited? Have you asked them? Have you actually went to somebody that's in your program to say, I think you'd be a great instructor and get them involved? Women have told us that when they see women their age, they really feel that they won't hurt them, that they understand their issues, and they're really motivated to have them there. So the more you can recruit them, the more you'll see them come into your programs more easily. Creating confidence. So women's only programs really work. And, this is another thing that women told us that there's children's programming for girls and boys and men's and women's programming, and then there's older adult programming. And they said, did I become asexual at this age? Like I still want to do things just with women. And I do want to do things that are co-ed too, but especially when it comes to learning new sports like pickleball is so popular right now, but women want to learn with other women. The strength differential is there, the abilities, it's fun. So really think about developing women only programs for this group to create that confidence because women will feel they're excelling. Training instructors to meet medical forms and understand those health conditions. So, a lot of women in this age group have different health conditions. Arthritis is a big one, and so is high blood pressure. So, understanding those and understanding how to make sure that, you're going to give some options for different activities if the knees are bad or if the fingers are bad, and different ways to maybe go forward afterwards to strengthen those things for their next classes. Create those welcoming environments. So women really like to be, said hi to, those clicks, and any way that you can avoid those from happening, it's important to have those welcoming environments. Explain programs so women know what to expect. So, women have said, don't just tell me what time it is and what the building is. I want to know if I need to bring water, if I need to have a mat, what I need to wear, how long it's going to take. If you're going to put me on a 5 kilometer walk, tell me where the bathroom is. So women want to know more information. So really explain your programs more, and women will jump on. And then the last piece to creating confidence is really asking women what they want and making them a part of the planning. Every one of the pilot projects that we did had some kind of a committee, advisory committee of women that really became the champions for those programs. They got their friends, they recruited people. So getting them engaged and then empowering them to move forward was really, really important. But don't guess, ask them and engage them. And this is a very capable group of women. So they will be able to advise you, they will be able to help you with a number of things in your planning. So then motivation, just some of the things that women have said were really motivating. So developing a routine. So having things at the same time, partnering with people on a Tuesday, the picture here is playing golf, you play a couple times a week. Anything that is put into a routine tends to get slotted in and it becomes a priority. Otherwise your life takes over. So having a routine is really important. Setting goals and having rewards. One of the big things, of course, everybody often focus on is weight loss. But why can't we focus more on little goals like sleeping better and being able to walk up the stairs easier and things like that? And really celebrating those little goals is important, and maybe having a little reward that you give yourself, a new pair of shoes or something that you have in the distance that you're aiming for. Having a buddy is huge. Cost savings, we've talked before, is also really important. Being invited, I cannot stress the importance of this more than being invited. And this is being verbally invited, telling somebody, we're running this program and it's not going to be the same without you, is going to make sure that they feel special and they're going to say yes. Having a handwritten invitation to give to somebody to go to something, a try it session, an orientation, this matters more than a generic flyer. They are not going to read the generic flyer, but any kind of personal touch with an invitation is going to make a huge, huge difference. Having fun, laughter yoga was probably one of the biggest ones that we saw popping up as we did these pieces because it was just fun. People want to laugh. Having any kind of improved health benefits and pointing out to people that they're doing that they're, oh, I noticed it. You're not out of breath doing that anymore. It seems like you're doing really well. Any kind of improved health is going to be motivating for women to keep on going. And then competitions, events, and challenges. So anything to do with charity, the diabetes program has like a whole year of getting ready for that walk or run, but it gives you that motivation to keep going all year because you're going to be raising money for something that you care or something that you're motivated to be a part of. The last thing that I want to show you is just this wonderful little map about on roads and off roads that people have in physical activity. So, a woman's life is not static in any way. There's lots of things that kind of take her off the physical activity path. And this is, anything to do with, we look at pregnancy and childcare to illness and injury to physical restrictions. So, really, our role is to keep getting people back on the path and understanding there's going to be constant reasons to get off the path. And it takes a lot of effort, a really lot of effort to get back on that path. So anything we can do with some of the things that I've mentioned and we're going to hear more about today to really motivate women to get re-engaged and to make them feel that it's really important that they get back engaged is really important because we want to be creating more on ramps. We want to get people more active and we want to keep them active for life. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Shelley. I'm actually laughing. So much of that resonated with me. I now can't wait for Thursdays to proudly march into the drugstore to get my seniors discount now, although I don't want to be called a senior either. So thank you for your presentation and for your leadership in this area for so many years. Please now welcome Nancy Angus. Nancy earned a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Lakehead University and certificates from Ryerson University in Gerontology and the University of Victoria in Adult and Continuing Education. After 35 years in the workforce with roles in seniors recreation, volunteer management, and freelance writing and broadcasting, she launched Age Big. As a speaker, blogger, storyteller, community connector, and workshop facilitator, Nancy engages individuals and audiences to age big boldly, inquisitively, and gratefully. She has been recognized as an influential woman of Northern Ontario in 2015 and was recognized as a Superior Northerner in 2017. A believer in lifelong learning through recreation, she learned to swim at age 55. And as a true recreationist, she threw herself a party at a municipal outdoor pool to celebrate this accomplishment. I hope you had that bathing cap on with the flowers, Nancy. Thank you for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
One plus, I believe one plus is the secret to success in recreation programming, especially for women who are a little bit more seasoned like me. My name's Nancy Angus. You've already been introduced to me. I'm a retired recreationist, but I'm now doing what I call my encore career, which is Age Big, which is my pro-aging campaign. I'm 63 now, and I worked for most of those 30 plus years with people who were labeled as seniors. And I'm not really comfortable, as Shelley said, we're not comfortable with the label of seniors, but I do realize now in my retirement that my world is a little bit smaller And it was a little bit different from when I was working. So I recognized that recreation helps me to meet people, to expand my circle, and to have a reason to go outside, especially in the winter. As one person, I realized that I really do need that plus in my life. I look at this slide, one plus, in the context of being a recreation programmer, specializing in the 60 plus demographic. And in Canada, of course, we know now that we're facing these impacts of social isolation and loneliness. And it's really not just during times of COVID, it's been all along, especially with this age group. As a recreation person, I program to that lone one person, the person who had the guts to stand up and attend a program that Shelley had organized with the Canadian Women in Sport in Thunder Bay. She was a person I never forgot at the round table who stood up, said, I live alone. In the morning, I turn on my computer. And then 6 hours later, I realize, oh my gosh, I'm still on the computer. I need help. Well, she was one of those people at that session who kind of said that I need to help. I need to do something. And she needed a reason to connect with people. And through that little round table, we were able to develop a program called FABS, Fun Active Babes. And that person, I'll call her Sophie, that's not her real name. She is one of those people that in your career you never forget. And I'm happy to say now that Sophie has a plus in her life. She has a continuing network of women who check in on her, and she has a group of people to do things with. She joined the Fun Active Babes movement, and she grew from that program. In recreation for older women, I learned about the power of the plus and the power of the invitation with every activity I organized. We invite women to join our programs, and then we must introduce them to each other. That introducing participants to each other is, especially when someone has the guts to come out to a program on their own, I think is vital to the success and the vitality of a program. A walking program I organized at an indoor soccer field that is a bubble and it's since collapsed. It had something unique. If you look at the center of this picture, you'll see bleachers that we pulled out into the center of the field. We moved those bleachers into the center of the field. So we had a park-like setting where people could stop and talk to each other and visit. But with another grant that we got from Canadian Women in Sport and Shelley, we were able to hire an older woman who was a fitness trainer. And she worked with a group of women to develop walking goals and walking to kind of build their kind of walking skills and their goals that they had in mind. So it became a really cool central meeting place in the middle of a busy field with a variety of different levels of walkers. And I also empowered women and women volunteers particularly to welcome people, to stop and chat with people, to help them kind of make sure they came back week after week. And we witnessed friendships being made and arrangements also being made so people would meet to go walking outside of our arranged program. And to me, that's an incredible win-win situation. We could see the powerful connection of people making friendships. And I think volunteers extending that power of the invitation to all the participants are part of what I call a community of movement. The invitation, if you think outside the box for recreation activities are of interest to women. For example, with another grant, thanks to Shelley and Canadian Women in Sport, we created a photo series called Long Live Endorphins, or the Endorphin Gals. And we gathered a group of women doing totally diverse sports, from bird watching to triathlons, from a new swimmer to a person who loved to do Tai Chi. And we took these photos, we took them around town, and we made these women role models for other people to jump into a sport like cross-country skiing or yoga. We moved these slides and these pictures around town. They were in the Starbucks coffee shop, they were in the city hall, they were in the regional hospital, and they said things for women that their comments that really made a difference for them. For example, Bernice said, You don't have to be an expert. You just dare yourself to try. And we made little trading cards that were really cool. And people looked for those trading cards of women doing cool things that they could aspire to. And we made friendships through that. And so, yes, of course, I was the person who learned to swim at 55. And I was the model in this Long Live Endorphin series as the swimmer. That was my sport. It was one of my biggest accomplishments in my life, probably my top 5. And I want you to realize if you are programming for the more the 60 plus demographic, yes, older women can learn new things. It just might take some of us, like me, a little longer to learn it. But when we do, we want to throw ourselves a party. And I do appreciate the fact that learning to swim was one of my favorite accomplishments, and the fact that I could share it with my recreation program participants, as well as my friends and family in an outdoor municipal park. FABS is a program I could talk about for hours. I just want to show off. I live in Thunder Bay. I live on the shores of Lake Superior. I just want you to see this lake. It's just fantastic. This is Tai Chi out on the park, you know, in front of the largest freshwater lake in the world. But FABS is a program that we designed with Shelley's funding from Canadian Women in Sport with $3,000. It was founded in 2010 when that one woman stood up and said, I need help. I need to get away from the computer. And with $3,000, the program is still operating in Thunder Bay. The woman in the middle here is Diana, and I don't have time to show it to you today, but I urge you to go and watch her testimonial. With another program, we did digital stories, and Diana's story about recreation and the power of being part of a program like FABS, where her husband said, you've got to get out of the house and into the community. And she realized by finding the sampler program that she exposed herself to things that she never dreamed that she would be part of. She was doing Feldenkrais, she was trying bowling, she was doing pole dancing. You know, she was just exposed to things that she never, ever would have been exposed to before. And she's so grateful to being a babe, calling herself a fun, active babe, and looking at the fact that our group was able to start the program with seed funding, and community sponsors came forward to keep it going, and a core group of women pulled it together. And in fitness, we talk about the core. And I think that's what keeps us strong. We all know that we need to work on our core no matter what age we are. But especially as our bodies age, the core is really important. I like to think about and thank the core groups that are behind programs like FABS. And if you nurture your core, the community will come. I look at FABS still going today, and I think of the Fab4 women behind the project that are empowered to keep it going. They're the volunteers who work with minimal resources and a couple of community funders to make a huge impact on hundreds of women in Thunder Bay. And I like this fact that we are now in a situation where women 55 to 75 plus can accomplish more now than we ever do to keep ourselves connected through things like senior centers without walls, Zoom classes, or park bench settings. And I was really happy to see Canadian Parks and Recreation Association with that bench idea. I love that whole opportunity for people to come together and share. And I realized too that we have to allocate resources to this sector. But as I look at activation through recreation as cost effective, I really see it can make an impact. In closing, this is an outdoor pool in Thunder Bay. This is where I had my 55th birthday party. I realized when I went to Heath Pool that there were times when the lifeguards had nobody in the pool. None of the kids were coming to their Toonie lessons. So I said, invitation. Let's invite people to come into the pool when the pool is quiet. And so by having the lifeguards on duty, we were able to secure a volunteer leader. This wasn't an aquafit class, it was just a gentle water workout class. We got people to come back into a pool that they'd never had a chance to be in before. And they started coming back regularly on a regular basis. We'd have 30 people, usually on average, no matter what the weather was like. And I feel the power of this opportunity was in a testimonial. And one woman said, I've lived across from Heath Pool for over 50 years. My kids swam here, but no one ever invited me to come until this summer. Now you've encouraged me to come and I love it. It's great. Now I'll come back with my grandkids. So to me, that is the biggest success of all. The power of the invitation, the power of one. It's the 1+ theory in action. And I thank all those core volunteers who put life and love into these projects. I thank the participants who always try and are the ones who come by themselves, and we encourage them to come back. I thank the staff who have the vision and the tenacity to try new things when sometimes it takes a while, and we know in recreation programming, sometimes it takes a while before we get a good core group of people coming out to an event, but those programmers keep trying to build the numbers. And Shelley reminded me, Shelley is one of my mentors, by the way, so I'm very grateful to publicly put this out there. But she reminded me that I have always included my mother, Sis, in all the talks that I do. And here she is. This is my mother, Sis. She passed in 2020 at the age of 101 plus. And she had a motto that she lived by. And it was 5 words, but I'm going to add another one today. Her motto was hug, smile, walk, talk, help, and I'm adding play today. May we all be as lucky to live like Sis. With recreation, we add the plus in people's lives, no matter what age they happen to be. Thank you for all you do. Merci, Miigwech.
Thanks so much, Nancy. Wow, it's definitely my goal to live to be 100 as well. So I loved your final story, and what you've accomplished personally and the service you've provided to other women is inspirational. So many great lessons. So thank you so much. And our final presenter, Liz Pasquale. Liz studied recreation leadership and business at Mohawk College in Hamilton. She retired in 2018 after 41 years at the YWCA Hamilton, and 32 of those years managing the operation of the Active Living Center for 55 plus. Liz became a master trainer for Canadian Women in Sport in 2009. A seasoned certified fitness instructor and artistic director and choreographer for the Hula Wahinis, a Hawaiian dance company for 55 plus that performs at numerous venues that include as far as North Bay. Liz was also nominated for the first annual 2019 Spirit Award for the prestigious Women's Canadian Club of Hamilton that highlights and celebrate the many and varied achievements of an extraordinary woman from the greater Hamilton area. So thank you, Liz, and looking forward to your presentation.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Krista, for that lovely intro. And hello, everyone across the country. You heard my profile and you didn't hear the word senior or older adults in it, even though I have worked with these demographics for 32 years. Yep. When Shelley met me a little over 10 years ago to be a master trainer, I used to have black hair. And now my true age is showing. And every strand of this silver hair I earned. Why not? I'm retired now. Or is that tired? That part of tired is in retired because now I'm enjoying life to the fullest. And I don't know how I had time right now to do everything. And so I'm always tired. And now I'm considered a senior at 62. Well, during my working days as an assistant director, we used to call where I work senior center. As time evolved, we wanted to attract the 55 to 60-year-old to our center. And we often wondered why we couldn't get them to step into our doors. So, and by the way, we are co-ed, but most of our participants are women. So we invited anyone who is in the 55, 60 in the community to be involved in a focus group that we organized to assist us. And of course, the comments were, well, they didn't want to come in because of the word senior center, and that the center is meant for old people. People, all they do is knit and they're not really active and they play cards all day, which sort of turned them off. Well, coincidentally, the focus group report done by Shelley for the Canadian Women in Sports stated the same thing. Not only the focus group report, but across Ontario, all senior centers felt the same way. That the wording makes a big difference. And according to the CWS report, many women 55 to 70 do not identify with the word senior older adult, or elders. They all feel that they do not relate to that name because they don't consider themselves as such, right? And I can confess to that and I will attest to that. Gosh, anyone calling me a senior, like Shelley said, just call me a senior when there's a discount or a freebie. By all means, call me that. But otherwise, no, don't call me a senior. Funny how I remember this friend of mine. She's now 80, but when she was in her 60s, she said she didn't want to say her age to anyone because once people knew her age, they treated her differently, like an old person. So she didn't say her age till she turned 80. And of course, everyone was shocked and they never knew her age. And at that point, she stood proud, to say she was 80 because she could kick butt in that fitness center amongst those younger babes who were in their 60s, and including me. As they say, 60 is the new 50. We hear that a lot, don't we? And women are investing more in their health. And not necessarily what happens on the inside, outside. We're more concerned about what's happening within ourselves, which means investing in their health to prevent high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and all the illness that comes along with aging. And you know that there's a stigma behind that name, seniors. And we decided where I was working to change the senior center name and call it the Active Living Center for 55 plus. Then in 2015, Hamilton got all the 5 major senior centers together and we developed a brochure that is a one-stop shop and called the brochure 55 plus to portray that the centers for 55 plus are a place that's vibrant, right? And active and energetic. So I'm going to show you the first slide. The first brochure that you see, that's the very first one I believe that we created. I was part of that core group with the 5 senior centers getting together and trying to develop some marketing tool that would attract 55ers into all our centers. And as you can see, the big 55 is on top of it. And there is a word seniors there because we do include the little senior clubs. And we wanted to make this like a one-stop shop brochure. So the major 5 senior centers or 5 centers for 55 plus are all in there. Other brochures that we have done. And the city of Hamilton was great enough to do that for us. All we did was say, okay, we want this, we want that. And as you can see, it's very diverse, it's energetic, it's vibrant, and it actually really, really works. And the next slide will do the same thing because this next slide here is probably the last one before the pandemic hit us. And as you can see, she's playing a guitar, she's happy. And it's a type of brochure that will surely attract anybody who's 55 and over, and anybody actually, because even the people who are in their 80s are going to look at this, hey, this is an alive type of a center. I just want to go in there because I want to feel alive. So even simple flyers such as this, you can see it says women 55 plus. And a simple flyer like this speaks 1,000 words, and the power of invitation is amazing, as Shelley has said, and so did Nancy. I volunteered 2 women actually in our center and who were in their early 60s to recruit women to join this program, and especially ones who've never done this before, pickleball. So, and once I knew their names, I called them personally to let them know what the program is all about. And of course, we tell them, we're going to have a big party, after this. And that's always what attracts everybody. It's the party and the food, of course. Where I work, the YWCA, it's amazing because in the adult and youth department, and also including our center, which is for 55, somehow didn't have any sports related programs. So this particular one was a big deal for us, just getting pickleball in our center. And we applied for a grant, and thanks to Shelley and to CWS, the Canadian Women's Sports, we got accepted and we got some seed money to make this program into reality. We have 2 locations. And with the money that we had, we bought some equipment for the 2 locations and started applying the fundamental movement skill building. So we measured their gaits, how to throw a ball, looked at their posture. We did some drills on how to actually hit the ball in the middle of the paddle, and of course, learn the rules of the game. I invited like a couple of our master trainers, Petra and Tina, and they're sisters, and they're so keen on pickleball that every time we see them, that's all they talk about is pickleball. So why not? Why not have them on board and teach us? It's to start us off and get us going. Well, I myself have never done this before. So I got involved with it and joined in. Not having the skills to participate was cited in every focus groups as a barrier to participation. So when the participants actually saw me join in, they felt a little better because, in their minds, they're seeing me not knowing and I was willing to learn. And it made them feel at ease somehow that I was joining in and they're probably thinking, hey, she's younger than us. She's willing to learn. Then I can learn too. It was a great motivator because I got them going. And, and not only that, I wanted to feel myself how they were feeling, especially if you've never done something like this before or played something like this before, and how awkward it must feel to learn something new and how we can handle this and can we handle it? Well, the nice part of it is we were all in the same boat. We were all learning at the same time. And that was the fun about it. There was no fear of being silly or standing out. And all we did was laugh and laugh because we didn't really know what we were doing. That's all we did. Amazing. It's so amazing how those simple fundamental movements can grow to something bigger because I saw their skills getting better and mine too. And I saw how much confidence they have gained after the 10-week session. They improved their posture, their movements go in front and back, their side to side, how they hit the ball and do their serves. And at the end, of course, we had our celebration of food and drinks, and it was time for me to really step back as the facilitator. And I think that was the best part of it, the social end of our session. We just loved being together. And of course, as me, I step back as the facilitator. It's like being a mom, when the babies grow up, it's time to let go and let them conquer on their own. Why not? And so two of the women from that group volunteered to be coordinators of this program. And because of them, it grew from 1 day to 2 days to 3 days a week. And all I did was when they asked me for something like, Liz, can we call somebody to get somebody from Pickleball Association in here to give us clinics? Can you do that? That's all I really did. They did all the work. And eventually we started offering pickleball clinics because of them. And so it's to further their skills. And the group went to watch the pickleball tournament at McMaster one day. And because they're at that level now where they hope that they'll be there to compete. So you'll see in the slides, this is Shannon, and she's also a fitness instructor. And so when she learned that this opportunity came up, I'm in my 60s. I want to learn this pickleball because this is the trend that's coming around now. And so she was phenomenal, and she's never done it before either. Now she has her own racket. She bought this real expensive graphite pickleball racket, and she just loves going to games now. And then the next slide, there's the group of women. This is the first batch. If you can see the woman on the far left, that's the lady, Adele, that I was talking to you about, that she really didn't want to tell her age because people somehow treat you differently once you say the number. And the person on the far right is Lorraine. And she was the first one who came forward and said, Liz, I want to help you out. I want to get this going. And she was the champion of this group. And it's amazing how this first batch helped out the second session people. So we paired them with the second group who've never learned before. And we got this first batch to play with them and be their partner and to mentor them to be great pickleball players. Well, this validates that the programs need to start an introductory level and eventually progress to various levels of skills. And for some, it's okay to stay in the introductory level, and that's okay. But there are also some who would like to see a progression. They need an opportunity to graduate to the next level, and offering an intermediate level, then on to advanced level, would really assist some women in feeling even more competent in activities. And this gives them an option to feel comfortable, depending on their health condition, of course, and ability levels, whether it be in fitness, dance, or pickleball. And this brings me to my Hawaiian dance group. And this is close to my heart. Who knew that these Canadian women, 55 plus and all the way to their 80-year-olds, would be able to do the hula and perform on stage with their grass skirts, swaying, and sarongs at Theatre Aquarius in Hamilton and on stage at Roy Thompson Hall in Toronto? Who knew? But we did. It took us a year, though, to be accepted as authentic Hawaiian dancers because every time we came out, people thought we were a comedy group and they'd laugh until we start to dance. Then the audience, they just settled down and knew we were really serious dancers. So to make this long story short, we started in a special event in the Senior Center or the Center for 55 plus. We were performing on the floor in just a small platform on stage every anniversary of our center. Then finally, I went up to our director and asked her, hey, why not take this to the next level? Let's go on stage. Let's rent a high school auditorium. Since I had that experience in putting a variety show together when I was in high school. And little did she know that she would be the one who would be pulling the curtains open. In 5 years, we did our so-called recital with my Hawaiian dance group in it and gaining more competence in their skills and becoming a graceful Hawaiian dancers along with our other performing groups. Even our director gained confidence due to this progression and moved on to a bigger and better stage after that. We're real stage crews looking after the lights, the curtains, and the stage sets. Well, the golden age of variety show was born. If you know Hamilton, then you know Theatre Aquarius. It's the second known theater besides Hamilton Place. And this show ran for 14 years, bringing in busloads of audiences from all over Ontario and as far as Rochester, USA. Yep, we got across the border too, and they found out all about us. And in 2007, my role as a producer won the Tourism Award for Ambassador for Arts and Entertainment. And I was the producer in the last 3 years of the 14 years that we had this show because our producer stepped down and I sort of got in there and just went on with it. And so where am I going with this? I just want to show you how skill building is really important. And to be of this caliber, we had to audition our participants coming out of the intermediate level to be part of this show. We had to see that if their skills were up to par to perform at this level. And most made it. But it's always hard to say for some that they have to keep on practicing. And maybe next year, hey, you could be part of this show too. And mind you, because of this show, it brought a lot of 55 to 60 age group into our center due to the high energy of the show, plus the glitz. We had costumes galore with high-cut bodysuits, and of course, and also the dream to perform on stage in front of hundreds of people. Well, the demise of this show came in 2009 when Theatre Aquarius changed their mandate to end the community groups renting the theater. It's all right because our hula wahinis still live on and we perform at various retirement homes, festivals, and other community events in Hamilton and surrounding cities. Hey, why not? We're still alive, so we'll keep on going. I must say, this was the highlight of my career. It showed me that growing old is not so bad after all. I look forward to aging, loving every moment of being retired. And it's not bad doing a couple of days of work, going back to work, because it stimulates my mind. Got to keep that mind going. I try to live in the moment and enjoy every ride because life is too short. And to end my presentation, Here's a video clip of some of the performances we did on stage and events. And our dancers range from 55 to 80 years old. We had an intergenerational show that year, and my daughter got involved and my mom got involved. So the 3 generations were in that clip. And you have to excuse that some of the clips are not high quality, because the most important part of this clip is just to show you the gist of what we are capable of, coming from an introductory level of Hawaiian dancing to where we are to be performers and performing for hundreds of people. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Liz. It is interesting to your point about saying your age out loud. So when I turned 40, I used to say 3010, and I've continued to count my age that way, because it kind of takes people a while to figure it out. And I think I'm going to continue this strategy until I turn 3069. Some great reminders about the importance of that sense of fun and belonging for women, and the importance of learning new skills for all women. So thank you again, Liz, for your presentation. And I wanted to thank all of our amazing speakers today. I think you've all made the case about how important it is to welcome women to participate, and you've provided great insights into what we need to do to get and keep women more active. So now I'd like to move to our live question and answer session. We've been keeping track of some of the questions that you've posed in the chat box or in the Q&A box. And now I'm going to open it up for some additional questions as well.